The palace dimmed itself when she decided, as if the walls understood embarrassment. Authority tags dissolved from her bloodstream, command harmonics fell silent, and the floor no longer leaned toward her footsteps. She waited for the familiar weight of the empire to return, then realized it wouldn't. For the first time in centuries, nothing bowed. The silence felt rude. She adjusted the borrowed uniform, too soft, too practical, and reminded herself that this was the point. A queen could not learn the truth from a throne. Her first task was simple: deliver a tray calibrated to human preferences. The tray argued. It insisted the nutritional balance was insulting to biology and suggested improvements. She threatened it. The tray complied. When the door opened, she expected awe or fear, or at least a flicker of reverence in the air. Instead, she got a smile and a casual, "You're early," spoken by the one person whose opinion could still unsettle her. She nearly bowed out of habit and corrected herself by tripping. Gravity, which usually behaved, chose that moment to express independence. He laughed and caught the tray before it achieved orbital velocity. "Careful," he said. "These floors like to test newcomers." Newcomer. The word was a joke aimed directly at the universe. She thanked him in the approved service cadence, which came out too precise, then too fast, then wrong altogether. He raised an eyebrow but said nothing, inspecting the meal. "Did the kitchen finally listen about the spice levels?" he asked. "Or is this a subtle assassination attempt?" She surprised herself by answering honestly. "If it were, it would be much prettier." He laughed again, and the sound loosened something behind her ribs where command used to live. Surveillance motes hovered, uninterested. To them, she was a replaceable body performing a replaceable function. To him, she was a person in a bad uniform who had opinions about spice. The days rearranged themselves around small errands and smaller conversations. She learned that humans complained as a form of affection and joked as a method of survival. She learned that cleaning drones hated corners and that the palace could not decide whether it preferred her silent or invisible. Sometimes emotion leaked through the dampeners, a faint shimmer under her skin when she was startled, a harmonic echo in her voice when she forgot herself. He noticed everything and pretended not to. Once, when a protocol flare nearly exposed her, he coughed loudly and blamed the air recyclers. "Old systems," he said. "They hum when they're nervous." She tested him gently at first. Casual questions, hypotheticals. What would you do if the empire asked too much? What if power changed the shape of love? He answered with humor, deflecting the sharp edges. "I'd negotiate," he said once. "And if that failed, I'd make jokes until everyone forgot why they were angry." She filed that away, unsure whether to laugh or worry. At night, alone, she felt the absence of the crown like phantom limbs. The empire waited, calculating her return. She stayed. The test had begun, though she no longer remembered who it was meant to measure. The transit ring misfired at breakfast, which was inconvenient for everyone except her. Alarms rippled through the station in polite shades of blue, and the artificial gravity hiccuped like it was clearing its throat. She steadied a stack of folded linens that had no business being that obedient and wondered, briefly, whether pretending to be ordinary was easier when the universe itself refused to cooperate. A service badge chimed at her wrist, suggesting she smile more. She ignored it. Even disguises had opinions these days. She was assigned to the observation concourse, where diplomats pretended not to watch one another and vendors sold souvenirs of planets no one was allowed to visit anymore. The perception veil wrapped her thoughts in static, flattening instinct into habit. She practiced being forgettable. It was going well until a courier drone mistook her for an obstacle and apologized 3 times in 6 languages before reversing into a planter. A child clapped. She bowed, then stopped herself, then bowed again out of sheer confusion. The child bowed back. They were even. He arrived late, as usual, blaming a scheduling AI that had decided time was negotiable. He complained to her as if she were furniture with feelings, which she decided was progress. I asked for a quiet morning, he said, setting down a bag that hummed softly. Instead, I got a minor temporal dispute and a lecture about punctuality from a machine that doesn't sleep. He glanced at her badge. You knew. She nodded. The nod was wrong, too decisive. She corrected it by shrugging. He accepted this as a personality trait and leaned on the railing. The station rotated lazily, stars sliding past like thoughts you didn't need to finish. He asked for directions he didn't need, and she gave them with the wrong emphasis on purpose. Humor, she'd learned, was an acceptable form of sabotage. A maintenance alert pinged, redder this time, and the concourse lights dimmed. The bag hummed louder. He winced. Prototype, he said. It's supposed to stabilize probability fields. Right now it's sulking. She reached out before thinking, fingers brushing the casing, and the hum softened, fell into harmony. The bag relaxed. So did the gravity. He stared, then laughed. Guess it likes you. She stepped back quickly, pretending to check her badge. Machines do that, she said, which was not untrue. He squinted, then shrugged. If you're ever tired of folding impossible linens, he said, you could fix the empire. The pay is terrible, but the jokes are better. They watched a diplomat trip over a perfectly level floor. The diplomat blamed the floor. The floor filed a complaint. Laughter bubbled up around them, small and human and contagious. Surveillance threads skimmed past, uninterested in a servant and a man with a sulking device. Later, when the alarms resolved themselves and time apologized, she stood alone by the railing. The veil thinned as her emotions rose, a warmth under the skin, a resonance she swallowed down. Somewhere, councils argued with projections of her absence. Here, a man had thanked a machine for behaving and meant it. She folded the last linen and placed it where it belonged. The badge chimed again, suggesting she take a break. She smiled this time, just enough. The council tried to find her by arguing loudly enough that the universe would point. Predictive engines bloomed with probabilities, each insisting she was exactly where protocol said she should be, which was nowhere useful. The palace compensated by increasing reminders. Every surface chimed. Every system sighed. Somewhere, a ceremonial door refused to open out of spite. She heard none of it. She was busy calibrating a waste recycler that believed itself to be a poet. The recycler recited verses about entropy and dignity while refusing to function. She listened patiently, nodded at the right moments, and adjusted a hidden harmonic. It flushed triumphantly. "You're very good at that," said a voice behind her. She startled, shimmered, and smothered the glow with a cough. He pretended not to notice, which had become their shared sport. "I find listening helps," she said. "Even machines want to be heard." He grinned. "Careful, that philosophy gets you elected." They walked together through a corridor that shortened itself when it felt observed. He told her about the pressure, about nobles who smiled like knives and algorithms that asked leading questions. He made jokes about it, because jokes were cheaper than panic. She tested him harder now, nudging choices into his path. A courier asked for a signature that would quietly reroute aid away from a fringe habitat. He hesitated, cracked a joke about paperwork being the real villain, and refused. The courier huffed and left. The corridor lengthened in approval. Alarms flared, crimson this time. An audit sweep. She felt it before it arrived, a cold brush across her thoughts, counting, weighing, expecting obedience. The veil strained. Her skin warmed, light whispering to the surface. He stepped closer without looking at her. "Maintenance glitch," he said to the approaching inspectors. "Happens when systems get curious." One inspector scoffed. The lights flickered. The inspector apologized to the lights. The sweep passed, offended and confused. They laughed afterward, the kind of laugh that leaks tension like air from a punctured suit. "You're very calm for a newcomer," he said. "Most people panic when the empire clears its throat." She considered telling him the truth, all of it, right there. Instead, she asked him why he stayed. He shrugged. "Someone has to make sure the place doesn't forget how to be decent. Also, I like the cafeteria on Rotation C." Later, alone, She let the glow rise and fade, counting breaths like a beginner. The test had inverted itself. She was the one being measured, not by machines or councils, but by the ease of shared laughter under pressure. The Empire's shadow stretched, heavy and precise. Here, a recycler wrote a haiku about renewal and worked perfectly. She wondered which system was more advanced. The Empire found her by mistake, which felt appropriate. A ceremonial broadcast scheduled itself into the wrong chamber, projecting her absence in exquisite detail. Councils froze mid-sentence. Algorithms tried to apologize to one another. She stood there with a tray she no longer needed, the veil trembling like a held breath. He watched the projection bloom and fade and said, mildly, "That's going to be awkward to explain." She laughed, a sound that carried a harmonic she no longer bothered to hide. Light traced its familiar paths beneath her skin, warm and unapologetic. The veil slipped away without drama, as if relieved. Systems recalibrated. Gravity leaned in again, cautious. "You knew," she said, not accusing, just curious. He shrugged. "I had a suspicion when the building started behaving around you. Also, you threaten furniture with confidence." Inspectors rushed in, then stopped, then bowed to the wrong person, then corrected themselves. She waved them out. "Later," she said. "I'm busy." The word landed differently now, lighter. The inspectors fled, grateful. Somewhere, the recycler published an anthology. They sat on the floor because it seemed funny to do so. She told him why she'd hidden, how power had grown loud and love quiet, how she'd wanted to hear the truth without command in the room. He listened, then admitted he'd played along because it felt like a gift. "You asked me who I'd be without the Empire watching," he said. "Turns out I'm still me, just with better jokes." The loose ends untangled quickly once she stopped pulling them tighter. Aid roots corrected themselves. The sulking prototype found purpose stabilizing more than probability. The councils learned that certainty could be negotiated. She returned to the throne without sitting on it right away, letting the silence teach her something new. When she finally spoke, it wasn't a command. It was a question. The room leaned in anyway. Later, in private, she tried to apologize for the test. He stopped her with a grin. "It wasn't a test," he said. "It was a date with chores." She banned herself from cleaning equipment by decree, then laughed and rescinded it. Growth, she realized, didn't feel like ascent. It felt like balance.